Welcome to Good Game, the show for gamers by gamers. I'm Hex.
And I'm Bajo, and this week we're going to take advantage of our new space and do some reviews via interpretive dance.
No, we are not.
Yes, we are. No, we're not. But we will be doing some in-game sword-based choreography with Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance.
It's Revengeance.
Revengeance.
And you are?
And there's no time to explain.
What? Why?
No, that's the name of the game we're reviewing. There's no time to explain.
A delicious muffin!
And also, Goose will have a look at the pros and cons of using crowdfunding for game development.
But first, can you guess the game for this week?
全ては妖刀夕霧の怨念のためか。このままでは奴に切られるのを待っているようなものじゃ。切りに行くか、それとも抜けるか。
News time, Bajo?
Composer Austin Wintory has narrowly missed out on winning a Grammy at this year's awards for his work on Journey. Wintory's work was nominated for the Best Compilation Soundtrack for Visual Media Award, making Journey the first video game to ever be nominated for the award. The shiny Grammy ended up in the hands of Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross for their work on the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo soundtrack.
And you will.
At the recent Design/Innovate/Communicate/Entertain Summit, Valve's Gabe Newell spoke with film director JJ Star Trek/Star Wars Abrams about possibly developing Portal and Half-Life movies. Abrams added that it was more than just a potential collaboration, and that the films are as real as anything in Hollywood ever gets, with writers being approached to help develop scripts. Abrams also mentioned during the panel that he had an idea for a game he'd like Valve to work on. In more concrete game-to-movie news, Batman and Beetlejuice actor Michael Keaton has signed on to star in the upcoming Need for Speed film.
It's showtime.
Keaton, who will star alongside Breaking Bad's Aaron Paul, will play the role of a reclusive host to an underground supercar race. Meanwhile, Fox International Productions has announced they will be rebooting the critically panned 2007 Hitman film. The new movie, titled Agent 47, will star the Fast and Furious actor Paul Walker as the bald assassin. Sure, it'll be great. As part of the Australian government's inquiry into the local pricing of IT products, Apple, Microsoft, and Adobe have been summoned to a public hearing after all three companies failed to send representatives to the inquiry voluntarily. The companies will need to justify why their products are priced so much higher here in Australia. If they fail to attend the hearing on March the 22nd, then it could leave them open to contempt of Parliament charges, fines, or even possible jail terms. Epic Games has closed down the only recently formed Impossible Studios. The studio started up late last year to work on Infinity Blade Dungeons, recruiting most of the staff from the closed-down kingdoms of Amalur developer Big Huge Games. No precise reason was given for the closure of Impossible besides a brief statement from Epic Games founder Tim Sweeney saying it wasn't working out for Epic. While Epic has given all staff 3 months severance pay, they have also given them the opportunity to continue to use the Impossible Studios name and logo.
Good game.
First-person perspective games have a set of rules that we all know and understand and follow, and it's only in rare cases with games like Portal that gets turned on its head a bit. Antichamber takes every single one of those rules and twists it and breaks it and smashes it into your eyeballs and ruins your brain.
You begin in a small room. The exit sign is visible but inaccessible, and then your journey into madness begins. This is a puzzle game filled with non-Euclidean architecture that quickly forces you to lose trust in everything you see. For example, looking through windows can change the room you're in when you step back. Take one path and it might just send you back to where you were, until you do something like turn around or observe something in the environment. It's a whirlwind of disorientation and trickery.
Yeah, nothing makes sense to your eyes at first, but there's always an underlying layer of logic to each puzzle. Success is about recognizing that logic type, whether it be a repeating color in a room, where am I going? Or a more physical-based puzzle, such as when you're using the block gun. What's that mean? And just when you feel the slightest bit of accomplishment,
Connect 4.
you walk into another puzzle that will completely stump you. sometimes forcing you to give up and try another maze direction.
You will hit a lot of frustrating brick wall moments in this puzzle catacomb, and the worst part is even though you know they're solvable, they just look so impossible. That said, you can teleport back at any time, and you'll probably need to, especially as the puzzles get more complex and obscure. Knowing where to teleport can be an issue though, as some puzzles require an object from a previous nearby section.
Okay, I need that other block. It goes there, and then... Get more blocks, need more blocks, need more blocks. I can't get that block if I need that block. When do I get that? I think most people will hit a point where they just want to stop playing, but the good thing is it's actually quite fun watching someone else play this and fail, because you take joy in their failure, because it makes you feel less stupid at your own failures.
I don't know where I'm going. You're not completely without hope though. All the little scattered pictures and hints are actually really useful if you stop and think about what they're saying. Ah, I'm amazing. I mean, I suppose these hints are like puzzles in themselves, aren't they?
Yeah, we don't want to spoil any of the puzzles for you, but I think we will explain one just so you get a sense of it. This room, for example, has a skylight that says, "Don't look down." If you look down, you fall into oblivion. It's a seemingly endless loop, which is a common puzzle element in this game. But what takes a while to realize is that when you've looked up, the room around you has actually changed, and the entry that you came in is now a different door. So if you back out of it without looking down, then you'll proceed to the next area. It's crazy stuff, and so many of these rooms felt like they've been ripped from some traumatic childhood dream I had.
Yeah, when you sit back and look at it, it's quite an upsetting game to play.
In fact, I dreaded loading it up each time just because of that relentless confusion and assault on your senses.
Well, it just goes against everything we've been conditioned to, and that can be quite intense.
It's akin to writing with your left hand, you know, or putting on your underpants in the dark, or trying to use the new version of iTunes. I don't know how they make that program even worse. Where's the sidebar? I'd say this is a fascinating game to play and to talk about with others and watch other people play, but I never want to touch it again.
It's by no means a bad game, and it's very clever. It's just the moment I loaded it up, I wanted to close it down.
Yeah, it's a bit like Braid for me, you know. Picking up Braid is a daunting and stressful task, but beating Braid is like a badge of honor. But looking back, I'm trying to think how much fun did I actually have doing all of that, because it's quite stressful. And this is the same, but it's just a bit more intense all over. What are you going to give it, Hex?
You know, it's such a shame because there's obviously such clever ideas here that's been, you know, spawned from an amazing mind. But when they're presented in a way that make you not really want to play it, you know, that's frustrating. So I'm giving it 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm going to give it 7.5.
In '93, I had graduated college early. I went to art school, and right before I graduated, I went to Dragon Con in Atlanta, Georgia, which is a card gaming convention, pop culture and comics convention. And I brought my portfolio with me, and you know, I was just interested in comics at that point. And then I ran into a guy who, his name's Tom Ang, and he worked at Disney Interactive. And he saw my portfolio and he says, "Hey, would you be interested in a job in California making video games?" And I just couldn't believe I was, you know, hearing this, because, you know, for my dad especially, I remember telling him, he's like, as an artist, he thought, well, what could you do as an artist? And I said we're going to work at Disney. He's like, oh, well, that's obviously the only job you can get, right? So for him, it was like I had struck the gold mine. That was the one opportunity I can do to be an artist. And it turned out to be a passion, right? I mean, I absolutely love video games. I would have never known what this kind of journey was going to be, but, you know, it's turned out to be great, and I've loved every minute of it.
Good game.
No Time to Explain is an indie platformer based around one of the coolest premises we've seen, so let's let the game explain for itself.
I am you from the future. There's no time to explain. Follow me to... Oh, Christ! Ah!
All we need to do now is find...
Time travel, alternate universes, evil alter egos with goatees, and you can dance at any time by holding down spacebar. Hex, this game has everything.
Yeah, those opening few seconds really grab you, don't they? And with next to no explanation, you find yourself picking up your future self's laser gun jetpack gadget. Much like Spelunky and Super Meat Boy, this is platforming at its most brutally difficult.
Yes, you'll be instant retrying and dying a lot, and that's part of the appeal. The gun jetpack thingy is a pretty fresh spin on the usual platforming formula, and amongst the constant trial and error, you'll pull off some awesome acrobatics. I love the game's sense of humour and all the dialogue too. I got many a chuckle from my future self's dying words.
My ribs are in my eyes! They're in my eyes!
This game's greatest asset really is its variety. I mean, as you warp through space, you'll tackle so many creative mechanics. The most basic is a big-ass shotgun with a recoil that flings you across the screen. You can also turn into a human cannonball after stuffing yourself with cake. And you even go a bit bonkers insane and get some trippy mind powers. And then this happened.
Hey, it's me. Bad news, our evil self's gone back in time. He wants to give us D or B des before this whole thing starts. Oh no, what are we gonna do? You're gonna go inside yourself and cure it. What? Hold still. Wait, should we go to...
I did not see that coming. They did quite a good job of turning all of these scenarios into gameplay. When you're fighting the diabetes inside yourself, there are these pools of syrup. Land in one and you'll buzz around on a sugar high that'll let you jump further, but also kills you unless it's washed off. The developers call this a comedy platformer, but Hex, I don't think it really delivered on that as much as I wanted to like this.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. Because of some of the bugs and inconsistencies, the frustration meter blew a few times for me, and I ended up having to walk away. I mean, when you die in a good platformer, even the really hard ones, you should know exactly what you did wrong and be able to learn from it. Whereas here, I think often the controls and the design were to blame.
Yeah, I think it's just that core mechanic for me. It just needs a bit more work. It's just too hard to aim and get that proper amount of platforming momentum. And I know that's the challenge, but still, it shouldn't be that hard. Maybe controller support would have helped it, maybe it would have actually made it harder. The thing I found most disappointing, though, was the boss fights, because so much of this game is instant death. But then when you get to fight a boss, suddenly you're invulnerable, and that's kind of pointless.
Yeah, with the exception of this guy. You're invulnerable for the first half of the boss fights. You're playing on autopilot, yawn, more rocks, whatever. Then all of a sudden lasers shoot out of his eyes and kill you instantly. I mean, it makes no sense. Plus, he kept getting stuck on the background. Normally I could get him moving again by going in and out of the menu screen a few times, but then he really lost it and I had to reboot and replay the entire level.
Well, this was only made by 2 people, so you can understand a few rough edges here and there, but overall, as much as I loved all the ideas and the craziness of this game and its style, I just think it needs much more polish, so I can't give it more than 4 out of 10 rubber chickens.
I did find myself strangely compelled to collect all the different hats. I'd be making my way to an exit and then, ooh, a hat! So it gets an extra half a point from me for the hats. I'm giving it 4.5.
No Time to Explain, as we said, was made by just 2 people using crowdfunding.
And they're not alone. Crowdfunding is massive, and not just in gaming, as Goose finds out.
Crowdfunding seems like an ideal business model for an industry like video games. In fact, last year, the popular crowdfunding website Kickstarter reportedly raised over $83 million from 1.37 million backers, and that's just for video game ideas alone.
I feel like an empowering moment for players when they realize that you don't need a big company to fund something. You don't need to be a huge publisher to fund a game. You can just organize enough fans and they can make it happen.
Crowdfunding opens a brand new way of communicating between a project creator and the end user of the product, for this case, the game players.
And the best thing about it is just how simple the concept appears to be. Here, let me show you. The first thing I'm going to need is an idea. Then, using resources like crowdfunding websites and social media, I'm able to market my idea to the public. There you go, one for you. Cheers. I then ask them to make a donation of any amount to reach a set target goal within a certain amount of time. I can then offer them rewards or benefits depending on how much they decide to pledge. Once I reach my target, I'm able to fund my idea and turn it into a reality.
You've got to know what you're doing. I mean, it's an emerging area, and so the way things are done with this kind of new and evolving economy is very different to applying for funding in the traditional way.
So, say you come across an idea for a game that you think is worth some of your hard-earned cash. What kind of information should you know before hitting that pledge button?
You read the material. If it makes sense to you and it's the type of project you would like to support, well, by all means, invest. If it sounds like it's vague or it sounds like it's very complex, that's not your fault. That's the promoter's fault. The promoter should be able to explain this in a way that's reasonable for you. And we've seen far too often that there are scams that use either very vague language or very complex language to actually say not very much in the disclosure documents. And quite often investors fall into the trap of saying, well, it's my fault. I don't understand, but I'm prepared to invest in any way. I say that's a big warning sign.
So it is not a place for any potential project creators to come to get free money. And so anything is promised on the website needs to be delivered, otherwise you're breaking the law.
The rules and regulations that apply to just offering a reward are quite different to making or offering an investment in a particular venture. There's a whole range of crowdfunding projects that we see that offer you, for example, an early version of the product, or it might offer you contact with the promoter. All of those sorts of things are not strictly regulated. And the person who's giving the money to the person for that really can only accept that thing in return. An investment is really an entirely different thing. An investment is where you expect that into the future you will get some sort of share in the ownership of that business venture, or you will have a right to participate in some ongoing sense in the profit from that venture.
With success stories like FTL and Double Fine Adventure making headlines, there seems no end to the crowdfunding revolution. But what about the games that never reach their target? Is there anything we can learn from them?
I've found that through a lot of other projects, people often forget to say thank you to the people who've supported them through the process, or they don't actually deliver on the return to the support network that they've got, which is just kind of a stupid thing to do, really, because you're biting the hand that feeds.
Having our time again, we would have had a planned PR campaign with, like, we do this week 1, we do this week 2, etc., which we didn't really.
Think about the whole process, the traditional way you make a game. So you go to an investor to get money, and then you're going to make a game happen, and then you have your marketing bit, which you're going to put a lot of money and energy to make that marketing bit happening. At this stage with crowdfunding, you pretty much take that last step up front to the front. So you still need a lot of attention in that period of time. So that's a lot of people probably not getting that bit quite right.
Crowdfunding is not only a great tool for raising capital, but also for teaching developers how to successfully market ideas through social media.
I mean, the one thing with crowdfunding is, in some ways, it's just a marketplace. Like, it's no different from, like, the App Store or anything else. Like, you can't just put it on there and just hope that someone is just randomly browsing Rocket Hub, and like it doesn't work like that. So having an organized PR campaign, because it's just a marketplace, you have to make people aware that it's there.
Crowdfunding, for me, is the next step of the social media booming. So it's actually tangible things grow out of social media. So it is critical for a crowdfunding campaign. You need to have very efficient ways of communicating with your potential supporters. So social media is pretty much the only way for you to reach a lot of people at a short time. That also means if you are planning to launch a crowdfunding campaign, build an audience base on social media before that would definitely help a lot.
So I didn't have a Twitter account before I started, so I registered on Twitter and dove in there head first. Basically, I started a blog as well and made sure that I loaded up my blog as full of information and pictures, so people could find out through my blog a lot more information about it and get a lot more background.
It does help that you have a history. If fans remember a game that you made that they'd like to see more, because you're asking for a lot of money, and it's a lot of trust there. So they have to be someone that they trust. But it could be a new developer who is, for some reason, has been able to prove that they're trustworthy and worthy of that kind of investment. And so I think anyone could do it as long as they find a really unique, compelling story for their their crowdfunding pitch.
So tell a story as a real people behind, this is what I want to do, this is what my dream is, and this is why it is important.
I think what people buy into with the crowdsourcing space is you. People really want to believe that you are doing something, that you're going on a journey. And so for you to be able to identify your own characteristics through that process is really important.
Good game.
After some shaky development, Metal Gear's latest in a long line of epic titles is finally here, and it's called Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance.
Which, can I just say, is not a real word. Metal Gear is known for introducing new gameplay techniques with each installment. However, this game takes probably its most dramatic shift by making combat sword-based. It may not be the kind of Metal Gear game that fans love and recognise, but personally I think it's absolutely fine for a game to go in a completely different direction when it's a spin-off like this.
Yeah, I think fans will be divided, but having said that, it'll probably bring a whole bunch of new people into the franchise as well. Let's get to our experiences. Set in the year of 2018, 4 years after Guns of the Patriots, cyborg technology is everywhere. While the larger private military companies have been destroyed, smaller rogue and criminal groups using cyborg tech for their own gain are rampant.
Enter our hero, Cyborg Ninja Raiden, who fans will recognise from Metal Gear 2 and 4 with flowing locks and a smoky eye any girl would envy, not to mention a flair for the dramatic. I mean, he is nothing short of fabulous, Bajo.
He's also brooding and deadly. Just about every part of his body has been replaced with some sort of cybernetic substitute. When faced with a foe he can't defeat, he simply gets more robot parts, which creates a kind of Darth Vader-y foreshadowing of what he could become.
Combat is fast, combo-based swordplay, but it's far from a button masher as there's loads of different aspects to the action. Stringing together light and heavy attacks, timing counters and slides all make for exciting, well-paced fights, broken up with probably your most powerful attack, Blade Mode, which I like to call slow-mo slice and dice.
Yeah, it's basically bullet time with a sword. It's also well implemented during a fight. When the limbs of larger enemies become weakened, you can use Blade Mode to target them and leave them all Monty Pythoned and limbless.
Slow-mo slice and dice can also be used to literally slice missiles and large objects out of the air, as well as an annoyingly specific selection of doors. You'll also pick up a whole range of different types of grenades, missile launchers, rocket launchers, which are particularly handy when faced with a winged cyborg or a helicopter. If you don't have a rocket launcher handy though, fear not, you can just jump from missile to missile like stepping stones to perform a mid-air copter takedown.
Brilliant.
I thought so.
There's also some fancy customizations you can make to his suit. Oh, I want a robot suit so bad, Hex. New weapons to unlock and skills to learn, and how you spend your points is all depending on how crazy you want to get with your fight style. The more skills you learn, the more combos there are to remember, but low spinning, whirl attacks or ground slams really open up the fights and allow you to be creative.
Health is restored with little repair modules, and you also get some to restore your energy meter, which is spent any time you enter Blade Mode. General light and heavy combos will slowly build up your energy meter, but you can also get an instant health and energy refill by performing an AVP-style spine-ripping finisher.
Later on, when Raiden starts to lose it a bit, you also get a rage meter to give you an extra edge. Combat does appear a little messy because it has so much going on. It doesn't lock up the camera view on you to keep a clear view of all the crazy flips and spins you'll be doing, and sometimes this means you do get a bit turned around. I did struggle with the camera a little bit.
Yeah, I did too, but I think it's well worth it leaving you with that freedom because, well, to be fair, I noticed it more looking back on the game footage, but when I was in the moment, I was still very focused on the action, even if it was a little chaotic at times.
I do like that this game doesn't do anything small. It's all big and brassy and balls out. The combat feels really fluid. There's lots to do and it keeps you moving through at a great pace. Plus it has all the signature touches that no Metal Gear game could be without, such as its highly advanced stealth techniques.
everything is very over the top and melodramatic, but, nevertheless, I did start to get quite drawn into it, and I began to look forward to those intense confrontations.
I think it's time for Jack to let her rip.
Plus, this is a game that doesn't take itself too seriously, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, I love that, and the ridiculous, cheesy music underscoring each boss fight.
I have to say, though, I did really like the way the story developed. I mean, dialogue does start off really one-dimensional. I will kill him. No, don't do it.
This is what happens when you bring a tool to a sword fight.
But later on, once Raiden starts to face some pretty intense inner turmoil over his true nature, his moral obligations, and his tortured past, the whole human versus AI conflict becomes really engaging, particularly with the introduction of his AI companion.
As for AIs, we adapt as we learn, just as any intellect operates, man or machine. Altering the course of mankind is not among my defined directives.
I guess that's a relief.
Yes, he was wonderfully philosophical for a robot dog. Better than this kid, whose accent was so thick that even his subtitles needed subtitles.
They pack us all a big old dirty container. Next thing we know, we're here at the zombie lab.
There are some frustratingly long and boring phone conversations, however. Every time you finish a fight, someone's calling you.
All right, let's get started. Let's recap the route you will take. I could not see.
I know you can skip through it, and a lot of it is just a cover loading, but leave me alone, German guy. I've got stuff to hack and slash.
So what's the verdict? I mean, for a Metal Gear game, this is a pretty big departure, but for me, it was a welcome one.
Yeah, I think there will be a lot of Metal Gear fans who just don't like it outright, but there is a lot to like here, so I'm giving it 8 out of 10.
The more I played of this, the more I enjoyed it. And, I don't have decades of snake-loving Metal Gear fandom behind me the way some might, but for me, as a spin-off, this was worth a 9 out of 10.
Adios, amigos.
Good game.
So did you guess the game for this week? It was Bushido Blade on the PlayStation 1 from 1997. This one-on-one third-person fighter, which had a lot of Blade action, was praised at the time for its realistic fighting engine, which, as you can see from that 6 frames per second footage, was pretty awesome.
Next week on the show, maximum bow action with Crysis 3.
Threat level is now elevated.
And over on Spawn Point on ABC3 this weekend, we test our vocal cords with Sing Party.
Don't stop me now! I'm having such a good time. I'm having a ball. Don't stop me now! If you want to have a good time, just give me a call.
Plus, Good Game Pocket Edition is right here on ABC2 this Saturday at 8:20 p.m, where we'll be doing roundups of everything we've played this week.
Until next week, may all your games be good ones. Barjo out.
Hex out. That's what I say. All your games be good ones. It's my
I can
thing.
say it too. I can say it if I want to say it.
You need your own, Ron Burgundy thing.
I'll just go Bajout in future.
Bajout.
Yeah.
That's
my new
it. That's
thing.
your Ron Burgundy sign
Sounds
off.
a bit like a disease, doesn't it?
It does.
Say, may all your frame rates be stable.
I like that.
And
That's
may
nice.
all your anti-aliasing be 16.
Okay, now that's getting a bit complex
now. And may all your V-syncs be forever on.